You're used to the stage though, mate. You're an absolute legend in the defence industry. Eh?
No, no, no. I just do my thing, and I spoke at the Something Tech conference in Brisbane. I hadn't spoken on stage for such a long time. Like, I was actually really quite nervous getting up there. It was a room full of about 800 people, and
Right.
yeah, it was. You lose if you're not up talking all the time. You lose your skill at it.
100%, 100%, mate. I'm shocked. I used to do it all the time. I don't know if I can get up on a stage anymore unless you're at a wedding and had a few lemonades. And lots of things come off. But anyway,
I much prefer to talk in podcasts like this, where you can just do it from the comfort of your own home, and you're not staring at a room full of people.
oh, that's right. You see that cigar and the whiskey.
Yeah, Joe Rogan style.
So, mate, you look really interested in the insights, Tim, especially given your experience in defence industry. We've had the pleasure of knowing each other for a long time, and I remember when you first started BenchOn, with this ambitious plan and this goal, and of course on the outside, I'm going, go Tim, go Katie, and on the inside, I'm going, that's crazy. How are you going to do this? So where it is now, mate, tell us a little bit about the story.
Yeah, it's been eight years now since we first started in 2016. So we started off, we were just trying to solve the problem of employee underutilization, So I guess this is the core of it is, project-based industries, they have such, stop-start nature, peaks and troughs. And I saw so many people, they'd be on a contract and then that project would end and then they'd just get let go because they had nothing to go on. So, they're looking for a new job and it just didn't seem efficient. Businesses were losing revenue by keeping people on the bench, where BenchOn comes from. And then other companies were like, we need people today, and then spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on recruitment fees to get people in. So we originally started by going, well, what if we just mapped out all industry and the workforce that each business had? And then when anyone was underutilized and another company needed someone for a project, they could simply just subcontract that company. So that was the idea that it started out as. But I think we were a bit early in 2016. I think we were a little bit ahead of the industry in the fact that the take-up wasn't significant. We helped a number of people get and maintain their jobs, particularly as we came into COVID. It became really important, but there was something missing. Like a lot of companies kept saying things like, oh, that's a great idea, love it, but it's just not for us. Our employees are too important to share with anybody else. And, so there was a cultural mismatch with what we were trying to do. So that's why the first probably 4 years were insane. Meltdowns, breakdowns, almost running out of money, like right before Christmas, like all this sort of stuff. And then we started working with, companies like Jacobs, and that went really well. So we built out new portal technology to help those sort of companies engage with contractors. And then we started working with Hanwha Defence, and they were our first defence prime. And they said, we love what you're doing on the talent side, but can you do that on the supply chain side as well for products and materials? Like, can you build in a tendering system? And as you know, you always go, yeah, of course we can. Like that. Of course.
You whatever you want.
Yeah. So we built that in, and then we realized the data that we were collecting across all B2B industry engagements. And so we built in a business intelligence dashboard behind it to do all of that industry mapping and, activity analysis. And then we realized what we had. We had now a portal that enabled businesses to engage, organizations like primes or major contractors to engage with thousands of companies in one go through an AI-powered matching algorithm and find the people, products, materials they need for their projects, like at a click of a button. Rather than what we have now, which is SMEs having to go and they have to know the project's on. They have to then go, okay, where's your project page that you're promoting this? They got to find that, and then they've got to register their interest, and then they wait for an email or a phone call if it comes. So there was just so much effort and time for SMEs to find work in the way that we have been doing it to date, that we figured, this AI system that really understands what your business does, and when anyone's looking for what you have, it automatically notifies you and says, hey, this is an opportunity you should look at.
It's funny you say that, mate, and without throwing stones at some of the other platforms out there, but we're on them because we have to be for the type of work that we do. But it's not that easy. There's no automatically generated, hey, by the way, this really suits you.
Yeah.
It takes forever to set up. It costs a ton as well. So there's a commitment to, to contribute to these particular platforms for no real value. Yeah,
Right.
Not for the SME. There's value for the portal because they're making money. But I personally haven't seen, and even some of the government owned portals as well.
Yeah.
I just, mate, and without coming from a procurement background as well, mate, you guys are killing it. You're really setting the benchmark for the BenchOn.
Well, one of the things that really annoys me is that SMEs paying money to be on a platform, they don't know whether they're going to win any work. And there's so many out there. Then you're right. You're paying, what, $2,000 a year or something to be on a platform just so that you can access opportunities. So we don't believe suppliers should have to pay anything. So on BenchOn, it's completely free. Like you, as a supplier, you just register. And you know who should pay? The companies who are sourcing. The companies who need the people, products, and materials for their projects. They're the ones that should pay because that's the function that they need. So that's why we built it that way. I don't agree that you should pay a subscription to be seen or to be pushed to the top of the list or anything like that. I mean that's unethical, I think.
Sounds like OnlyFans, but it's not good. So
your membership, long term
for the sport. It's for the sport. But mate, how are governments and government agencies? So defence is an example. So you have a long history being a defence member, having served. You now you cut your teeth in BenchOn in defence as a critical industry. You now look after other industries.
We branched out. So
yeah, great.
Now in transport and main roads, manufacturing, telecommunications, construction. We got a little bit in mining and oil and gas. And it is really all of those project-based industries that are need people when they need them, or need products when they need them, or need manufacturers when they need them, or whatever else. So we've had actually our fastest growing sectors are outside of defence. Who would have thought defence industry would be a tough one to start in? I'm sure someone told me that at the beginning.
It's easy, mate. Haven't you seen War Dogs?
You just start making money and traveling all the world. Yeah.
Great.
No. So defense is an interesting industry where it's very set in its ways. It's controlled by a number of, or a smaller group of big players that have very sort of set ways of doing things. And then you've got a group of, 4,500 SMEs all vying for work with one customer. It's always a very unique environment in defense. And that's what I think people who haven't been in defense industry don't understand, is that it's very different to any other industry.
Oh, but it is. And I think that's why, there seem to be all these barriers to entry, but that's also verification that once you're through those barriers, well, you've been through the pain, you know what it's going to be like, so we can trust you.
Right.
You can do this job, right? So, whether it be your ISO certifications, your DISP, your AGSA clearances, whatever it might be. So there's probably a bit of validation there. But what about other countries in the Indo-Pacific? So you've got a really good footprint in Australia, you're growing day by day. What about other countries?
So we've got footprints in New Zealand as well. So we're Australia, New Zealand at the moment. We've got, we're talking around AUKUS and linking up the AUKUS nations. So we're in talks with the UK and the US about that, but it's talks at the moment because, as you know, AUKUS is still getting off the ground and getting sorted. And then we've got interest from a number of other countries actually in Europe who are looking to link their, countries to Australia. So, apart from, say, I guess, Korea with Hanwha, there's a link there that we always try and support. But no, we haven't officially branched out globally yet, because I just think there's still a lot to do here in Australia first before we...
Especially with all the other critical industries, right? Like, defence is one industry, health, energy, mining, food and agribusiness, transport, like you mentioned.
And they all feed into national security, right? So, if we don't have our infrastructure in place, and we saw, like, even during COVID, how quickly our supply chains can get cut, and if we're relying on overseas countries to to do these things here in Australia, then we could very much find ourselves on our own and without the right things in place. So that's what I'm really actually happy that the government has put a focus on building a sovereign industry base here in Australia so that we can at least do the majority of the things that we need to.
Yeah, well, but then, it's a long-term commitment, right? And I was having a chat with another friend and colleague, funnily enough, in New Zealand, Scott McKenzie, around sovereign supply chains. And because we're at the bottom of the world, we don't make down here ourselves, but it really does take all of government and almost regional commitment to have that longer-term view, such as our friends to the north, different forms of government, obviously.
Yeah.
But instead of being on political cycles, and you know, that benefits some people, those political cycles, but not for creating a secure and sovereign industry or industries in Australia. But that's got to present a lot of opportunity for you too.
Yeah, well, it does, and that's, to tell you the truth, we actually stopped focusing on government and we focused in on industry itself.
Right.
And it was for that reason, was because government, you know, one government really loves what you're doing, and then the next government goes, no, we've changed tact, and it's too flip-floppy. No matter what industry you're in, not just defense, but, you know, defense, they try to be as bipartisan as possible, but there's still a lot of difference between the two. But yeah, if you think about, when you're talking about supply chain specifically, when the government looks at it, we need to improve this. They go, how do we cut red tape? How do we make it easier for you to tender to us? You know, it's all about them and their processes, but there's no thought or energy put into, well, how do we, from the tier ones or the major contractors down, how do we enable industry to work better together? Like, how do we enable them to connect with each other and to know what each other has and to give them data intelligence? Like, even if you look at the reporting that the government does, it's setting up reporting for them to make decisions, you know? So that's why we went, you know what? The government's going to do their thing. They're going to set themselves up to be as engaging as possible with the top tiers and to get the information they need. Now let's concentrate from the top tier ones down. How do we give an SME who's trying to work out where they set up a new office, how do we give them the data insights so they make the right decision so that they can create the most jobs and they can generate the most revenue and generate the most productivity here in Australia? So that's the difference in how we look at it.
That's great. And mate, obviously, talking about information, excuse me, you got defence specifically, you got primes, so tier one contractors who hold the keys to the gate. The poor little, mum and dad shop who are, can provide a lot of value and innovation. They've got to go through the prime. Defence get no visibility on what the actual innovation or the solutions are other than what's been told to them by the prime. So obviously, products like yours would allow some optimized intelligence for government and defence, to have greater visibility on what's available to them as a solution, and help them, bundle up a product or a solution for them to get the outcome they need.
Well, that's right. So, and I'm not doing the sell here, but the vision that we had was, no staff member underutilized, no factory is idle, no innovation goes unnoticed. That's the plan, and that's something we want the government to jump in on. But at the moment, it's leading industry with this type of stuff. Because, like you said, even in the 2016 white paper, the government specifically said primes will be the conduit for SMEs to win work. It's the way it is, and I say that to all the new businesses trying to get into defence. It's like, don't waste your time trying to go and meet with that project manager in CASG. Go and make relationships with the primes, because that's how you're gonna get your foot in the door. We need to help get. And you're right, when you look at the industry, you've got your primes at the top, and then you've got that bell curve. Like, this is a small amount of medium-sized companies, and then a huge base of SMEs. So how do they link up through that? And it's by enabling the primes to engage with SMEs.
Yeah.
The problem has been, though, that the primes, many of them being overseas, large global primes, they have such detailed onboarding requirements for a new supplier. So up until now, or up until a few years ago, they always had their set number of suppliers that they used. that they had onboarded that were already on contract, and they just kept using them. But you've got thousands of other suppliers out there, like you said, with innovations and, new technologies, and they're growing and they're doing things in other industries. I think now we've seen a switch where the primes are actually going, you know what, we need to cast the net wider. We need to engage with more SMEs. And so we've seen that trend start to happen the last few years, that they're breaking out of a set supply chain focus.
Yeah, right. So mate, as an example, the DSS panel, or it's been renamed, obviously. There's an approach to market coming.
Yeah.
Needs to be delayed and delayed and delayed. But you look at the old model where, of course, you've got, I think there were 400 and something panel members on that particular panel at the moment. The average number of jobs over the last few years has fallen dramatically. The value of jobs has fallen dramatically. Is BenchOn a genuine alternative for the DSS panel?
It could be, but again, we've never worked directly to defence, so to the government. But yeah, we have preferred supplier panels built into the system. Like, they could set that up. The DSS panel has always been a bit of a contentious one, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And I do know a number of companies who have won work on the DSS panel, but they've done it through a company that was registered on the DSS panel, and then they get the work. So we're creating these margin on margin effects.
Yeah.
But the DSS panel had very set specific prices that they had to get approved for. So the defence is still getting the same value for the same price, but the person who's actually doing the work is actually losing money because they've got to fit these margins in underneath it. So again, anything that creates margin on margin, I don't really support.
No. That's what I don't understand, especially with innovation these days and technology coming as far as it has. And your product's a great example. Your company's a great example. Is that you could erode that margin on margin, give visibility across the whole supply and value chain to the buyer for the right outcome. Like we had an example last year, and I won't name names, but meeting with some very senior defence folk who wanted one of our solutions, desperately wanted one of our solutions, which we roll out effectively for the US Navy and US Air Force with our partner. Wanted it desperately. One of the questions was, are you on the DSS panel?
All right.
When we're not on the DSS panel, for a few reasons. He's going, it just makes it so much harder for me to buy from you. So,
right.
Mate, you want this solution? We've got it here. I'll go through a panel member. They're going to put 30% on top, and they're adding no value.
Right.
Let me get my head around that.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah. And look, I understand too, the government has to have these processes in place. They have to have these, like any of the state governments have standing offer arrangements that you've got to get onto and allows them to buy direct from you. And it's because of the bureaucracy surrounding it, right? Like they have to approve these things. But that's the red tape they should be focused on cutting is, how do we engage with companies direct when it needs to happen? Smart Buyer was a great initiative in defence, the ability to do that, for them to say, you know what? And that's what they should have used for you, the Smart Buyer initiative. They go, this makes sense. Like, let's cut the red tape. Let's just engage them. All it takes is a bit of an assessment period to make sure that you're all good, and then they can engage. So I thought that coming out of first principles, that was a really good policy that they did. I just don't know how often they use it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's interesting though. Yeah, we're doing a job at the moment for a large Queensland government-owned corporation. Procurement task for them, and whilst there's certain policy guidelines in place for a government point of view, again, I think the processes are just calling out. I think for a solution like BenchOn, it's good that you're into transport and main roads and other departments in Australia now, mate, as well. So hopefully there's some benefit to be seen there. Mate, wrapping up with this particular session, but what benefit could BenchOn and your solutions bring to the Indo-Pacific?
Well, for starters, it doesn't rely on what we call a hope and wait system. These major projects, we've got so much to do in the Indo-Pacific region, and we know that time's tight. hope and wait systems where you go, hey, I'm after this, or this is the project, and just hope that the right people see it, hear about it, come and register, and then that you don't miss anyone in that assessment. I just don't think that that's viable anymore. We need a smarter way of doing it. And so that's why our system, which, using AI, can go, all right, let's scan the entire industry, not only the industry you're in, let's scan every industry. And then let's find the exact companies that have what you need and bring them together. That's the only way that we're going to achieve the speed to capability we need. We're going to achieve the productivity that we need. And so that's why we built BenchOn. It's essentially a multiverse of portals, right? So you're an SME, you sign in, you create your BenchOn profile, you teach the system what your company does, and then you join whatever portals that you think will benefit your business. And then that system will just tell you, hey, in this portal, here's an opportunity that matches you. In this portal, here's an opportunity. So you don't even need to know the project exists. You just need to be registered so the system knows what you can provide.
Wow. How exciting. How exciting. Well, mate, I know the Kiwis, you mentioned you got a footprint in New Zealand, so hopefully that'll grow there and throughout the region, mate, and we can see BenchOn's continued success.
Thank you, particularly because New Zealand's considered local content here in Australia, right? So we're all just now one big nation.
We're our East Island.
Yeah, that's right.
Mate, it's interesting. I mean, I was having a chat with Scott McKenzie the other day around this. He's based over there. And we're talking about what would regional procurement and regional national security, so combining our navies, especially, our air power, which, they don't have a great capability there. I mean, think about procurement and, counting them as a state of Australia almost, or them counting our states and territories as an extra one of theirs. I wonder what benefit that could have to the region. I mean, I know there's a lot of risk as well, but it'll never happen. But surely there's got to be a lot of benefit.
Especially because the supply chains getting cut between New Zealand and Australia are very, very low. We're so close. We have much of the same systems and policies in place. It only makes sense. Band together and let's do what we can down here.
Yeah. Well, mate, most of New Zealand's workforce is on the Gold Coast anyway. So.
Yeah, that's right. I've got a few friends over here that are Kiwi that will probably yell at me if I called them the Eastern State.
I love it. Well, the boilers low though, mate. We need that back. That's another reason to bring them in.
Yeah, just so they forget about it. Just let us take it. Yeah.